Alex Jones here with a breaking emergency news alert and analysis. It is Saturday, September 5th, 2015. Months ago, back on June 20th, I put out a special report called Total Emergency Alert, Elite are now evacuating. And I break down how they're sending MRAPs to all the local departments saying get ready for civil unrest, get ready to fight the Tea Party. I pointed out how we're having all these announcements for world government by the Pope and the rest of it. I pointed out that the elite were preparing and pulling their money out of stock markets in the U.S., Europe, but especially China. You now see that's begun to happen. I showed you mainstream news articles where elites are buying armored redoubts in northern Canada, the Ozarks, New Zealand, the Cook Islands. I talked about my sources that said all hell is about to break loose by the fall. Since then, we've seen stock markets fall massively around the world, starting in China, the United States. We've seen private central banks propping it up. We see the Federal Reserve's decision on increasing or decreasing interest rates, sending shockwaves. We are enslaved by the private central banks who are eugenicists and who want a world financial collapse they control to consolidate power. June 20th was almost 3 months ago as we sit here and talk in early September, 2.5 months ago. And look how much has happened. I want to explain something. I don't want things to collapse, even though it's a bubble. We're damned if we do, damned if we don't. I want to be clear. I'm just telling you what the establishment's saying and what the signs are. And we were saying it not just 2.5 months ago, but 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, as we saw the signs. This bubble is untenable. It's all based on fiat fraud. But you add together all the crises humans face and the fact that corruption has crept into everything, and the elite don't have an attitude of saving humanity, but just having a global economic, cultural, military meltdown out of which they get full power. They've decided to try to ride the wave of chaos and destruction and grease the skids, and they're going to get power out of this. It is insane. It is self-destructive. And so I'm reissuing this time to the next level. We were like, at a 7 before on the Richter scale. Now we're like a 9 or a 10. The death cons are just moving up literally and figuratively. So let's go ahead and go over some of this evidence right here. Here is the video from June 20th, shot at my cousin's house. Also on the weekend, came in, got set up to cover it because it's just so important. So go review that video for yourself. Here's an article a few days ago. The rules are flawed. Chinese stock crash leaves investors cynical. Central banks from China to the United States that are owned by private interest are monetizing most of the national debt. They're the big buyers. The Chinese quit buying our bonds, basically. Now they're dumping them. And other private investors are. That's what was covering up the inflation before. Let's continue. And they think lowering oil prices and things will kind of balance it out towards deflation and inflation, but all it's doing is just bankrupting people. You're not supposed to be able to have deflation and in the real economy, but inflation in the cost. But that's what you have in an artificial economy. It's beyond stagflation of the 70s. Is an epic financial meltdown to commence? And it goes over the numbers. The world is defenseless against the next financial crisis. That was June 28th, 8 days after I issued my alert, London Telegraph. They've been building, 14 of the seed vaults, 10 of the arcs in armored redoubts in frozen areas and hard-to-reach areas around the world with the Rockefeller Foundation funding it. And they're building these facilities where you go into the side of a mountain, and then once you're inside, they have all the basic seeds of the world stored inside the glaciers. And then they also, again, have animal vaults for humans as well and other forms of life. The genetics are being stored. And the UN and others are the ones basically running these underground bunkers. And these are just the ones that we know about. And then I tell the public about this, and mainstream media makes jokes about it like it doesn't exist. Here's a Mirror article. You can read a Guardian article, a New York Times article about it. Panic super rich buying bolt holes with private airstrips to escape if poor rise up. They know that when food prices become 50% of the budget, collapse happens, people start rioting. Why do you think there are refugees slamming by the hundreds of thousands a week into Europe? One Greek island has 161,000 people on it in the last month, Lesbos. And again, the globalists know they've got the computer actuaries. They're running this collapse. They're riding this collapse. Then you add to that, they fired up the Hadron Collider that even Stephen Hawking and others say could create something that makes hydrogen bombs look like a joke, could create black holes, strangelets, you name it, destroy the planet. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but this just shows how we're reaching that Atlantean moment. Whether Atlantis was real or not, we're reaching the moment where our technology gets so much advanced to our intellect, and they're just randomly doing testing, admitting it could, though there's a low probability, destroy everybody. It created a chain reaction where, boom, antimatter is released. That's just one of the problems, and it chain reacts. Not just the Earth, the whole solar system blows up. That's what a lot of the equations show. Continuing here, just going over the reason we're concerned. Harnessing black holes, the Large Hadron Collider, ultimate weapon of mass destruction. Here's Stephen Hawking worried about things like that as well. Why Stephen Hawking really said about destroying the universe. The famed physicist, lover of scientific and occasional doomsayer, made waves for suggesting that our universe could undergo catastrophic vacuum decay. That's basically what the black hole could create. Then you've got nanotechnology. They don't even know how it works now. They've got computers designing it. It gets loose. Probably's already gotten loose. Everything else the globalists do gets loose. They don't care if nuclear reactors melt down now. 90+% of them are leaking. It's like the elite have already left the planet or something. They just don't care about themselves either. But they're building armored redoubts and seed vaults. But then going forward with stuff that is totally destroying us while distracting us with carbon taxes over carbon dioxide when the Earth is in a carbon starvation mode right now, the lowest levels of carbon dioxide recorded probably in history. They've got ice core samples where it was 6-7 times what it is now, just a few 100,000 years ago. They've got samples going back in mud samples hundreds of millions of years ago when it was 30-40 times higher. But they're saying tiny increases in it, we've got to stop. When overall it's been diving. Cancer over GM food. Again, studies show it's giving rats cancer. They now admit glyphosates are basically doing that as well. They knew this back when they approved it in the 80s. Why are they doing this? It's like they're here to destroy us. Superbug threat to human race, more certain than climate change. Absolutely. Hundreds of thousands are dying a year alone in the U.S. over drug-resistant strains. And the illegals are bringing in, but we're not supposed to call them illegals. With the drug-resistant TB, we're supposed to call them migrants. 15 superbugs and other scary diseases, CBS News. I'm only illustrating how everything's coming to a head. And I don't know exactly why the elite are running to their bunkers and why they're gearing up for civil war and why they're trying to start a race war, but it's crazy. There's different factions, good and bad, battling with each other for global domination right now. That's what's really going on. There's a civil war within the elite. That's why things are spinning out of control. It's also just the time we've come to in humanity's destiny that the stars are aligning for our true destiny to be decided by all of us collectively. That's why we're trying to raise the awareness, raise the debate, ring the alarm for the 100th monkey syndrome. If you don't know what that is, it's documented. To where we have a crisis of understanding, and people throughout the system, throughout corporations, throughout government, throughout our daily lives at the low level, make the right decisions, educate others, and transcend this, or at least transcend some of these crises coming together that are cascading and save humanity. And believing in humanity, believing we're beautiful, believing we're good, being honorable, standing up against corruption, having courage, speaking out, that's what's going to change the world. The Ring of Fire has never been more active since it's been monitored in the last 100 years. And the only place it hasn't triggered in the last decade is along the west coast of the United States, set to mega trigger anytime. It's actually overdue right now. On top of that, the Russians are sending in fighter planes and troops publicly now to fight against ISIS and Al-Qaeda that's Western-backed in Syria. Donald Trump has come out and said, looks like Obama is behind ISIS. Again, showing that civil war within the power structure. Trump already knew that. So much that we've warned you about is now coming out. Can the United States stop a war with Russia? Even Henry Kissinger is coming out and saying, back off Russia. in the Ukraine situation, it's becoming a major danger for war. And then I mentioned the, quote, migrants. I feel sorry for these people, Syrians, North Africans, others displaced by globalist wars. But the globalists are now using the crisis they created to flood us with millions of people who will then destabilize the economy more and be a political voting bloc because of socialism, because of welfare, that'll vote to further take our rights and our liberties. Again, the globalists are for open borders, saying it's our responsibility to take immigrants if there's a financial crisis or a military crisis at record levels while they create the crisis, again, accelerating the world into conflict, into divide and conquer. Many obstacles are seen to U.S. Taking in large number of Syrian refugees. Now they just don't want Europe to take millions of different refugees. They want us to take 65,000, setting the precedent that it's our responsibility. Meanwhile, ISIS smuggler says we will use refugee crisis to infiltrate the West. Well, they actually said that themselves in an announcement 4 months ago, that they were already infiltrating Europe with these immigrant waves. And now you've seen the attacks at Charlie Hebdo, the other facilities, the train, what's happening at recruiting centers, what's happening in Garland outside Dallas. This is really going on. And it's just a canary in the coal mine showing the destabilization that's taking place. So this is a total emergency alert. Planned financial crisis and global meltdown accelerating. I don't know if we can stop it. I don't know what tricks they have up their sleeves, but I study this stuff. And all I'm saying is get yourself and your family ready. Defensively, but offensively, get out there and warn people. And let me tell you, the military's waking up. Police are waking up. That's why they want us to have a civil war with them. They're not perfect by any means. But we just need to be peaceful. We need to promote liberty. We need to stand up for ourselves, but also people need to get firearms. They need to train with them. They need to get prepared. They need to get ready for self-defense. I'm going to post this video to Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com. I'm going to get it out on Facebook and Twitter. This video needs to get 50 million views. I'm risking my life bringing you this intel. The enemy attacks us every day in major newspapers and TV for a reason, folks. We know what we're talking about. This isn't a game. For my family and for honor, going head up against these people. This is not a game. This is deadly serious. And people not taking it serious are going to allow this to come to fruition. Look in my eyes and look at the evidence. You think I'm playing games? You think the police are freaked out? You think the military's running around preparing for civil unrest and admitting they are for no reason? We have a depression this time. Tens of millions will starve to death. 7 million died during the last Great Depression for malnutrition. Look it up. University studies. This isn't a game, folks. This spoiled, rotten, decadent population out there, about half the population, will eat us alive, the producers. The giant criminal gangs that have been armed, the time bomb. You ever wondered how America will be taken down and a bunch of other countries at the same time? An organized worldwide depression with shadow, radical Islamic armies there to create the crises whenever the governments need to come in and take liberties. The government's got a decision. A lot of good people in the government. You want to be collaborators with this, or you want to wake up and face the facts? The corporations, people that work in them, have a decision to make. But most importantly, look in the mirror. You need to ask yourselves where you stand. You need to ask yourselves what you're going to do, because this is it. We don't get involved now. They're testing. And we fail this test. They're going to bring in, you like Obamacare? You like totally open borders? You like being lectured that you can't say mom or dad or boy or girl in school? You want to live in a cult? You want to be a slave? You want to spy on every corner telling you what to do? You want to be force-fed GMOs and force-inoculated? We're already getting gang raped. This was just the foreplay. All right, you've been warned. Total emergency alert. Get it out to everybody. We are the Paul Reveres of this age. You are the Paul Reveres of this age. Every race, color, and creed. Alex Jones signing off for Infowars.com. The rest is up to you.